To begin with, the word soul, with its accretions of meanings during the centuries, is an unfortunate translation of the Greek word psyche. It is more properly translated, according to the various contexts, as reason, mind, intelligence, life, the vital principle in things as well as in man. It is the constant that causes change but itself does not change. In fact, Plato's use of many different words for the rational order has caused much confusion. Huntington Cairns, in the introduction to the collected dialogues of Plato, p.xx, also and when studying at present, in English, the available Bahá'í writings on the subject of body, soul, and spirit, one is handicapped by a certain lack of clarity because not all were translated by the same person, and also there are, as you know, still many Bahá'í writings untranslated. But there is no doubt that spirit and soul seem to have been interchanged in meaning sometimes. Soul and mind have, likewise, been interchanged in meaning, no doubt due to difficulties arising from different translations. What the Baha'is do believe, though, is that we have three aspects of our humanness, so to speak, a body, a mind, and an immortal identity, soul or spirit. We believe the mind forms a link between the soul and the body, and the two interact on each other. June 7, 1946, on behalf of Shoghi Effendi and Arahanui, P0, page 89, the sign of these triune powers which exist in man are spirit, mind, and soul. The spirit is the power of life, the mind is the power which apprehendeth the reality of things, and the soul is an intermediary between the supreme concourse, or spiritual world, and the lower concourse, or material world. AB 00620, Tablets of Abdul-Baha Abbas, p611. God, in His bounty, has given us a foretaste here, has given us certain proofs of the difference that exists between body, soul, and spirit. Paris Talks, section 20, paragraph 2, p65. These verses of the Torah have therefore numerous meanings. We will explain one of them and will say that by Adam is meant the spirit, Ruh, of Adam, and by Eve is meant his self, Nafs. For in certain passages of the sacred scriptures where women are mentioned, the intended meaning is the human self. SAQ #30.5, with some answered questions, P123, cf. Henry Corbin, but the Adam to whom we have just alluded is first of all the spiritual Adam, the anthropos in the true sense, the first degree of determinate being, the nous, the first intelligence. The second degree is the universal soul, Nafs Kuliya, which is the celestial Eve. Creative imagination in the Sufism of Ibn Arabi, page 168, write all that we have revealed unto thee with the ink of light upon the tablet of thy spirit, Ruh. Should this not be in thy power, then make thine ink of the essence of thy heart, Fuad. The Arabic hidden words, number 71, spirit is the highest and supreme development of the soul. Soul is the material or outer self, the mind. Mind is the action of the soul's powers. The body is the physical covering or medium in which mind acts and functions. SWV14 #01P009. The temple of man is like unto a mirror, his soul, Ruh, is as the sun, and his mental faculties even as the rays that emanate from that source of light. Tablet to Dr. Farrell, P24. When we speak of the soul, we mean the motive power of this physical body. There is, however, a faculty in man which unfolds to his vision the secrets of existence. This is the power of the mind. There is still another power which is differentiated from that of the soul and mind. This third power is the spirit, which is an emanation from the divine bestower. It is the effulgence of the sun of reality, the radiation of the celestial world, the spirit of faith. Christ says, you must be baptized with the Spirit. This spirit of faith is the flame of reality, the life of humanity, and the cause of eternal illumination. It inspires man to attain the virtues and perfections of the divine world. It is my hope that each one of you may become conscious of this flame. ADP.122, in the microcosm, or the little man, there are deposited three realities. An outward or physical reality, a second or higher reality which is the intellectual reality, a third reality, that is the spiritual reality. SWV07 #13P117-118, Foundations of World Unity, P51. The differentiation which we make of these subjects is as follows. By soul we mean that power which is the mover of this physical body, which is entirely under the control and lives in accordance with its dictates. The soul that lives in the material world is dark, for in the material world there is aggression, struggle, greed, vice, and transgression. If the soul remains in this station and moves along these paths, it will receive no uplift, but if it becomes the recipient of the world of mind, its darkness will be transformed into light, its tyranny into justice, its ignorance into wisdom, and its aggression into loving kindness. There will be no more struggle for existence, and man will become free from egotism. He will be released from the material world and become the embodiment of justice, the personification of the virtues. He will become a sanctified soul and be the means of the illumination of the world of humanity and an honor to humankind. He will confer life upon the children of men so that all nations will attain to the station of perfection. To such a person we may apply the name of a holy soul. The soul in itself cannot unravel the mysteries, but the mind is superior to the soul. The mind is a power whereby man can investigate the reality of every object. It unfolds to his vision the secrets of existence and leads him on and on to the station of divine sublimity. It frees man from the fetters of self and causes him to ascend to the pure heaven of sanctity. The third power of man is the power of the Spirit. It is an emanation from the divine bestower. It is the effulgence of the sun of reality, the radiation of the celestial world. In short, it is the essence of the spirit of faith of which His Holiness Christ speaks when he says, "Those that are born of the flesh are flesh, and those born of the Spirit are spirit." The Spirit is the axis around which the eternal life revolves. It is conducive to everlasting glory. It is the cause of the exaltation of the world of humanity. Again, His Holiness Christ says, "Whosoever has not received a portion of the Spirit is as dead. Let the dead bury their dead." In another place Christ says, "You must be baptized with Spirit." This Spirit is the life of the world of humanity, the cause of eternal illumination. It inspires man to attain to the virtues and perfections of the divine world. SWV04 #02 page 038, Abdul Baha, January 30, 1913. There are in the world of humanity 3 degrees, those of the body, the soul, and spirit. The body is the physical or animal degree of man. Unlike the animal, man has a rational soul, the human intelligence. This intelligence of man is the intermediary between his body and his spirit. When man allows the Spirit, through his soul, to enlighten his understanding, then does he contain all creation, because man, being the culmination of all that went before and thus superior to all previous evolutions, contains all the lower world within himself. Illumined by the Spirit through the instrumentality of the soul, man's radiant intelligence makes him the crowning point of creation. The rational soul is the intermediary between the body and the human spirit. Paris Talks, Section 31, Paragraph 1 + 7 p. 096-097, KHT 1.168. The human spirit, which distinguishes man from the animal, is the rational soul, and these two terms, the human spirit, Ruah Insani, and the rational soul, Nafs Sinatiki, designate one and the same thing. This spirit, which in the terminology of the philosophers is called the rational soul, encompasses all things and, as far as human capacity permits, discovers their realities and becomes aware of the properties and effects, the characteristics and conditions of earthly things. But the human spirit, unless it be assisted by the spirit of faith, cannot become acquainted with the divine mysteries and the heavenly realities. It is like a mirror which, although clear, bright, and polished, is still in need of light. Not until a sunbeam falls upon it can it discover the divine mysteries. As for the mind, Akal, it is the power of the human spirit. The spirit is as the lamp, and the mind is the light that shines from it. The spirit is as the tree, and the mind is the fruit. The mind is the perfection of the spirit and a necessary attribute thereof, even as the rays of the sun are an essential requirement of the sun itself. SAQ #55.5-6, with some answered questions, P208, it behooveth him to seek only the divine bounties and subjects which lead to the real knowledge of the invisible world of God, through the mediation of the Holy Spirit. Then he will perceive the reality of the triune powers in man, through his innate perception. Tablets of Abdul Baha Abbas, p. 611. When studying at present, in English, the available Baha'i writings on the subject of body, soul, and spirit, One is handicapped by a certain lack of clarity because not all were translated by the same person, and also there are, as you know, still many Baha'i writings untranslated. But there is no doubt that spirit and soul seem to have been interchanged in meaning sometimes. Soul and mind have, likewise, been interchanged in meaning, no doubt due to difficulties arising from different translations. What the Baha'is do believe, though, is that we have three aspects of our humanness, so to speak: a body, a mind, and an immortal identity, soul or spirit. We believe the mind forms a link between the soul and the body, and the two interact on each other. June 7, 1946, on behalf of Shoghi Effendi, and Arahanui, P0, page 89, kindle with the oil of wisdom the lamp of the spirit, Ru, within the innermost chamber of thy heart, Kalb, and guard it with the globe of understanding, Akal, that the breath of the infidel may extinguish not its flame nor dim its brightness. The Kitab-i-Iqan, paragraph 65 p. 61, concerning the unity of soul, nafs, and spirit, Ru. When the soul is affected by the breath of the Holy Spirit, it will be united with the spirit, like the unity of the mirror and the sun. Its brilliant luminosity will reflect in this pure mirror. Abdul el-Baha, Provisional Translation, MKT 1:196. The soul is the sanctuary of God. ABU 3609. Individual consciousness is realized after birth. ABU 1477. The soul is a link between the body and the spirit. ABU 3157. It is not the body which feels pain or trouble but the soul. ABU 3340. The soul is always active. It travels even where man is asleep. ABU 2279. We beseech of thee that which leadeth to eternal life and everlasting existence. BH 10248. Man is created in a potential degree of spirit. Growth is from the mental station into the spiritual. ABU 3262. This seed may be likened to the perfect soul. The souls of men in general are as the leaves and the flowers. ABU 2645. Verily, we say, the soul is gladdened by goodly deeds and profiteth from the contributions made in the path of God. BH 00827. Law I have Persish. Through this power it becomes the discoverer of the realities of things and attains the progress of the human world. ABU 0690. In the human being there is conceived a perfect reality which according to various terminologies has received different names. ABU 2422. Miss B. What is the difference between soul and spirit? Abdul Baha, they mean the same. It is one reality. The names are different. ABU 2940. Spirituality is the possession of a good, pure heart. When the heart is pure, the spirit enters, and our growth is natural and assured. ABU 3334. Humans comprehend the realities of things while animals are ignorant. Through the power of will, humans uncover the hidden realities of beings. ABU 0690. Man possesses two kinds of life. One is the life of the body, the other is the life of the soul. The bodily life of man is the life of the animal. ABU 0182. The strength of body and physical might can at most overcome 100 men, but the power of spirit and vigor of soul can capture and possess whole worlds. AB 09379. Thou sayest the drop seeking the ocean of thy grace and the sea of thy bounty, and the atom seeking the effulgences of the sun of thy generosity and munificence. BH 06720. By the same measure is the human spirit, which is the greatest divine gift. If illnesses afflict the spirit, then it is obvious how difficult its treatment is. ABU 2162. The spiritual senses are numberless. They are perfections and favors of God. The spiritual powers are the means of conveying to all the spiritual bounties vouchsafed to man. ABU 1316. While the man is alive he is able to strike, to beat, to kill, but you sleep with him in the same room. But when he is dead, science teaches us that he belongs to the mineral kingdom. ABU 2533. When these perfections shine forth like brilliant lights from the horizon of the soul and such joy and spirituality are attained, every joy and perfection is in the shadow of compulsion. ABU 2824. Soul is the human will to live temporally. Spirit is the divine will to live forever. Salvation is the quickening of soul into spirit. All souls are alike in essence or quality as created. ABU 0744 Man is not man because of his body, man is man because of his soul, for in regard to bodily things humans and animals are partners. It is through the soul that he is distinguished from the animal. ABU 011 For the reality of the human spirit is detached from physical things and sanctified from embodiment in material elements. It is pure light, has no physical form, is a brilliant ray and a luminous radiance. AB 03919 Man has a power which encompasses and perceives things both seen and unseen, by which he is distinguished from the animals, which enables him to perceive things which are purely intellectual realities. ABU 0780 But the Spirit of God, the heavenly bestowal, is one reality, and in all ages, the prophetic ages, that reality has been, and that reality is, changeless, is not to be decomposed, for it is not composed. ABU 0757 You will retain your individuality and will not be swallowed up in one vast spirit. The essence of the human soul is clarified from material substances and purified from the embodiment of physical things. ABU 3067 The human spirit refers to the rational soul by which humans are distinguished from animals. It is not from the realm of physical elements but rather from spiritual substances that are not subject to corruption. AB 00479 And know thou that, verily, the Lord who doeth whatsoever he willeth will assist thee in proof and argument and will enable thee to speak the praise of the merciful one and will make thee a sign of knowledge. AB 02844 And when they concealed their faces from this lower horizon, they shone forth like brilliant stars from the horizons of the Abba kingdom, and ran to the private chamber of the truth, attaining the joy of meeting. AB 01584 Know thou that every soul is fashioned after the nature of God, each being pure and holy at his birth. Afterwards, however, the individuals will vary according to what they acquire of virtues or vices in this world. AB 00398 The human spirit, in other words the rational soul, in the world of existence is the intermediary between things corporeal and delimited worldly things, that is to say, between realities spiritual and things corporeal. AB 02513 The power of consciousness is also thus recognized. After death the condition is one which cannot be clearly explained in words. It is one of comprehension, understanding which involves all other things, feeling, etc. ABU 2186 The human spirit is a power which comprehends the realities of things. The human spirit is a comprehensive energy and controls the realities of things and discovers the hidden secrets in the domain of the physical world. AB 09754 After bringing into being and manifesting all contingent things and created beings, set apart man for himself, breathed his spirit into him, and deposited within him the gems of his mysteries and the wonders of his lights. BH 02601 Life is eternal, but the individual human consciousness is not inherently so. It can only gain immortality by uniting with the pure divine essence. This union man may reach by a pure life and love for God and his fellows. ABU 0343 Nevertheless the spirit of man is powerful, for the spirit of man can soar in the firmament of knowledge, can discover realities, can confer life, can receive the divine glad tidings. Is not this greater than making a salad? ABU 3259 The soul is a sign that is sanctified from entry and exit, it is both still and in motion, seated yet soaring. It beareth witness to a world that hath beginning and end, and likewise to a world that is sanctified from beginning and end. BH 00328 The spirit of man has two means of action. Sometimes it acts through an intermediary. For instance, the spirit of man sees through the intermediary of the eye, hears through the ear, walks with the help of the legs and smells with the nose. ABU 1201 Man is the only creature who can receive reward, because he has the power of choice whether he will show forth love or withhold it. He has the power to choose immortal life or to reject it, while the animals have no qualities that are immortal. ABU 1895 This development, in its primary degree, pertaineth to the human person, that is to say, they must first establish the edifice of the heart upon his name's firm and mighty foundation, and thereafter occupy themselves with inner and outer edifices. BH 04352 Man has a spirit which is above other beings. That power can discover the mysteries of nature, the earth, and the heavens. It can be in the east and organize vast enterprises in the west. These prove that in man there is a power greater than nature. ABU 0622 Hearts should be like fountains. The scholars and philosophers of the age are like pools, gathering a cup from here and a cup from there to fill their reservoirs, but some hearts are like springs that become purer and more abundant the more they flow. ABU 0860 This power of accomplishment is beyond the range of animal intelligence. Therefore, this power is a distinctive attribute of the human spirit and kingdom. The animal spirit cannot penetrate and discover the mysteries of things. It is a captive of the senses. ABU 0262 Such a soul is the leaven that giveth rise to the world and the crafts and visible things therein, through the command of the true sovereign and the true educator. Observe ye the leaven, how it requireth a leavening agent, and pure souls are the leaven of the world. BH 00328 The purer in spirit have, through this bounty from the All-Merciful, ascended from the depths of nothingness to the highest heights of being, while those defiled with the dust and limitations of the contingent world have withered and languished in the lowest of the low. AB 06948 For that pure spirit is an effulgence from the divine bounties and possesses all human perfections. This pure spirit is like a light hidden and concealed within a lamp, and when ignited by the fire of the love of God, its rays become manifest in the realm of existence. AB 07601 The intellectual power, the perceiving soul. All the arts, sciences, industries, and inventions were once in the invisible world were hidden mysteries, but the intellectual power of man has revealed them, has brought them forth from the invisible to the visible world. ABU 0780 But the prison which in divine terminology truly merits this name is the prison of self and passion. We beseech God for power and strength that through His assistance we may emerge from this dark, crushing prison and enter the boundless expanse of justice and righteousness. BH 03106 When one leaves this sphere, will he ever return? No, no one ever returns here, for this world is a school where the soul of man learns its first lessons in spirituality, and if he leaves this place without having learned his lessons sufficiently, the time is past and the opportunity lost. ABU 2606 Human spirits are manifested in physical molds or bodies. One spirit may be imperfect, that is to say, it may be imbued with qualities and characteristics of a baser nature, it may be ignorant, inadvertent, immoral, evil, contaminating, tyrannical. These vices are the retribution of this spirit. ABU 2120 Individual consciousness is realized after birth here. This is the matrix world for the soul, even as the womb was the matrix world for the body or vehicle. Birth into consciousness of another world begins here, a world for which this physical and material one is but the preparation and foundation. ABU 3236 To the animals other than man, the attainments of man are inconceivable, just as inconceivable as the next plane above and beyond this is now inconceivable to us. For there we shall find new powers, new senses, as far transcending those we now have as these transcend the powers of those on the planes below us. ABU 1355 Know thou that the purpose of this tradition is to demonstrate the distinction and difference between the human spirit and the earthly body. When he says, I saw a man, he refers to the body, and the answerer wished to make known to the question of the perishing of the lower body and the endurance of the higher spirit. AB 00018 Tafsir I Hadith Hal Ra'ata Rajulan The human spirit is the rational soul, that is, the one that perceives the realities of things, discovers them and encompasses them. It has brilliant effects, radiant lights, penetrating power, and perfect ability, distinguished in all its conditions and concept from other spirits. It is baptized by water and spirit. AB 00709 Mutilation of the body brings no harm to the soul. This is one of the proofs of the immortality of the soul, for death consists of the change and dispersion of the members and elements of the body. As a bodily change does not bring about change in the soul, it is evident that the soul is unchanging and imperishable. ABU 2979 Be it known that to know the reality or essence of the soul of man is impossible, for in order to know a thing, one must comprehend it, and since a thing cannot comprehend itself, to know one's self in substance or essence is impossible. As the comprehender cannot be comprehended, man cannot know himself in reality or essence. ABU 0185 Know that the soul which is common to all men cometh forth following the commingling of things and after their maturation, as thou dost observe in the germ. Once it hath developed to its predestined stage, God manifesteth the soul that was latent within it. Thy Lord, verily, doeth what he willeth and ordaineth what he pleaseth. BH00260, Surrey IRA is, God has created all earthly things under a law of progression in material degrees, but he has created man and endowed him with powers of advancement toward spiritual and transcendental kingdoms. He has brought forth everything necessary for the life of this world, but man is a creation intended for the reflection of divine virtues. ABU 0100 In regard to the phenomenon of death, know that the soul of man is sanctified and independent from material existence. It hath no need to enter or exit, ascend or descend, penetrate or commingle, for these are the properties of bodies, not of souls. Therefore, the soul of man does not enter into this corporeal frame, but rather hath a connection to it. AB 00457 The soul is in an abstract power, and its manifestation depends upon the development and preparation of that body. A poor mirror reflects poorly. The more the body is prepared, the more the soul can manifest. The more the body evolves, the more the soul can manifest. The spirit has no identity before incarnation and has no previous knowledge because it is a quality. ABU 0252 As we have before indicated, this human reality stands between the higher and the lower in man, between the world of the animal and the world of divinity. Man is selfish, they sever him from self and desire. Man is haughty, they make him meek, humble, and friendly. He is earthly, they make him heavenly. Men are material, the manifestations transform them into divine semblance. ABU 0033 But the inner and essential reality of man is not composed of elements and, therefore, cannot be decomposed. It is not an elemental composition subject to disintegration or death. A true and fundamental scientific principle is that an element itself never dies and cannot be destroyed for the reason that it is single and not composed. Therefore, it is not subject to decomposition. ABU 0138 The spirit in man is the perceiving soul, able to understand the realities of things and predominating over all things else. If the spirit of man, his perceiving soul, be confirmed by the spirit of faith so that it loves and knows God, and if it be guided by the guidance of God, and if the divine attributes be manifested in it, then there is a living soul which attains to eternal life. ABU 0647 Moreover, the animal perceives sensible things but cannot perceive conceptual realities. For example, the animal sees that which is within the range of its vision, but cannot comprehend or conceive that which lies beyond it. Thus it is not possible for the animal to comprehend that the earth has a spherical shape. But man can deduce the unknown from the known and discover hidden realities. AB 00057, SAQ number 48, this great power must evidently be differentiated from the physical body or temple in which it is manifested. Observe and understand how this human body changes, nevertheless, the spirit of man remains ever in the same condition. For instance, the body sometimes grows weak, it becomes strong or stout, sometimes it grows smaller or may be dismembered, but there is no effect upon the spirit. ABU 000 For the human spirit is a divine trust which must traverse every degree, for traversing and passing through the degrees of existence is the means of its acquiring perfections. Moreover, it is necessary that the signs of the perfections of the spirit appear in this world, that the realm of creation may bring forth endless fruits, and that this body of the contingent world may receive life and manifest the divine bounties. AB 00919, SAQ number 52, the rational soul is endowed from the beginning with individuality, it does not acquire it through the intermediary of the body. At most, what can be said is that the individuality and identity of the rational soul may be strengthened in this world, and that it may either progress and attain to the degrees of perfection or remain in the lowest abyss of ignorance and be veiled from and deprived of beholding the signs of God. AB 01631, SAQ number 66, as to your question concerning the reality of the soul, it is a divine sign and a heavenly essence which all the learned have failed to comprehend and all the wise have been powerless to understand. It is the first entity to speak of God, its creator, to turn towards him, to hold fast unto him, and to bow down before him. In this state it is ascribed unto truth and returneth unto him, otherwise it is reckoned among the followers of self and passion and returneth unto them. BH00328 The light of the Spirit illumines the world of existence and release it from the clutches of materialism. The ears can hear the voice in a limited distance, the vision of the eyes similarly is circumscribed, but the Spirit sees the east and the west, while in the west it organizes important affairs in the east. While on earth it discovers heavenly satellites, it unfolds the mysteries of phenomena, it goes under the earth and brings into the light of day the geologic secrets. ABU 1447 The evolution of spirit continues until reason, the mental powers, and the emotional capacities are evolved in it. These are not produced by entities which pass from body to body, but by the universal or world spirit of man. The results of each individual life experience go to the general enrichment of humanity. As 100 lamps may be lit from a single flame, so the one world spirit illumines the minds of countless men. Without this spirit, man's body, like the lamp, is lifeless matter. AB 10286 It cannot be said that the ethereal soul hath entered and penetrated this body, for the former is immaterial while the latter is bound by the restraints of time and space. Egress and regress, ascent and descent, setting and rising, dissolution and composition are properties of the body, not the soul. Despite its visible traces, evident signs, manifest attributes, and clear effects, the soul as it is in itself remaineth invisible and concealed. Its center is hidden and its origin is beyond any indication. AB 03491 And as the whole universe is reflected in our spirit, we perceive from this that our spirit, Ruh, is a reflection of the creative spirit and thus partakes of the infinity of space and the endlessness of eternity. O my sons and daughters, our spirit, which neither is conceivable nor can be explained, shares the infinity of space and boundless eternity with its creator, that means, the human spirit. The weak reflection of the divine spirit, the creative spirit, has part in the immortality of the creator. Our spirit is immortal. ABU 1069 Consider, just as the rays of the sun illumine the earth, in the same way, the soul illumines bodies. It is the soul which makes man heavenly, it is the soul which enables man to benefit from the outpourings of the Holy Spirit, it is his soul which discovers the realities of things. It is his soul which has manifested all these signs, it is his soul which has established these sciences, it is the soul which bestows eternal life, it is the soul which unifies opposing nations. It is the soul which brings East and West together, and turns the human world into a heavenly world. ABU 0114 The human spirit, which distinguishes man from animal, is the rational soul, and these two terms, the human spirit and the rational soul, refer to one and the same thing. This spirit, which philosophers call the rational soul, encompasses all other created things and, to the extent of human capacity, discovers the realities of things and gains knowledge of the properties and effects of contingent beings and the characteristics and particulars of physical existence. However, unless it is assisted by the spirit of faith, it will not become aware of divine mysteries and heavenly realities. AB 02018, SAQ number 55, The soul that lives in the material world is dark, for in the material world there is aggression, struggle, greed, vice, and transgression. If the soul remains in this station, and moves along these paths, it will receive no uplift, but if it becomes the recipient of the world of mind, its darkness will be transformed into light, its tyranny into justice, its ignorance into wisdom, and its aggression into loving kindness. There will be no more struggle for existence, and man will become free from egotism. He will be released from the material world and become the embodiment of justice, the personification of the virtues. ABU 0655 The human spirit, which is the rational soul that distinguishes man from animal, is not of the physical elements but rather of spiritual substance that is not subject to corruption. It is tormented when veiled from God, its Lord, and prevented from beholding its Creator and perceiving His signs in the worlds of souls and horizons. It has the power to comprehend all things and encompasses the realities of all contingent beings as they are, should it turn to the center of guidance among the concourse of creation. Otherwise it descends into the depths of ignorance and blindness and falls to the lowest levels of error and misguidance. BH 01497 The human spirit, which is the rational soul that distinguishes man from animal, is not of the physical elements but rather of spiritual substance that is not subject to corruption. It is tormented when veiled from God, its Lord, and prevented from beholding its Creator and perceiving His signs in the worlds of souls and horizons. It has the power to comprehend all things and encompasses the realities of all contingent beings as they are, should it turn to the center of guidance among the concourse of creation. Otherwise it descends into the depths of ignorance and blindness and falls to the lowest levels of error and misguidance. BH01497 concerning that question about the soul and spirit. By soul is meant the human reality which is oriented toward the contingent world and which possesses human characteristics in the world of man. This is termed the human natural spirit in which all people share. From this perspective, spirit and soul are one. However, the spiritual human reality is that which acquires the outpourings of divine grace and benefits from the effulgences of the Sun of Truth. That is the divine spirit which is specific to the people of faith, and those below them are deprived of these divine breaths and are considered dead in the estimation of the people of truth. AB 12666 as to your fourth question concerning the state of souls after their departure from the body, know that the soul is one of the abstract realities, and abstract reality is sanctified beyond time and space, for time and space pertain to the physical world and to that which occupies space. How can abstract reality, which hath neither body nor form, be confined by time or space? It transcendeth both. It is spirit, not matter, a heavenly grace, not earthly dross. It is light, not darkness, soul, not flesh. It belongeth to the realm of the All-Merciful, not to the mundane sphere. Its station is sanctified above all places, and its rank is exalted beyond all stations. AB 00068 Human spirit equals rational soul. Thou hast asked regarding the soul and the spirit. By the soul is meant the reality of man that is inclined towards the contingent world, and is associated with the worldly aspects of human life. This definition of the soul is known and referred to as the natural human spirit that is common to all mankind. So in this sense, the spirit and the soul are one and the same. But the heavenly spirit is that reality of man that is derived from the outpourings of divine grace and blessed by the splendors of the Sun of Truth. The heavenly spirit is confined to true believers. All others remain deprived of this holy breath and are such as are referred to as the dead in the language common to the followers of mystical truth. Provisional translation, Malakat Vujud, pages 110 to 111. The human spirit, which distinguishes man from the animal, is the rational soul, and these two terms, the human spirit, Ruah Insani, and the rational soul, Naf Sinatiki, designate one and the same thing. This spirit, which in the terminology of the philosophers is called the rational soul, encompasses all things and as far as human capacity permits, discovers their realities and becomes aware of the properties and effects, the characteristics and conditions of earthly things. But the human spirit, unless it be assisted by the spirit of faith, cannot become acquainted with the divine mysteries and the heavenly realities. It is like a mirror which, although clear, bright, and polished, is still in need of light. Not until a sunbeam falls upon it can it discover the divine mysteries. As for the mind, Akal, it is the power of the human spirit. The spirit is as the lamp, and the mind is the light that shines from it. The spirit is as the tree, and the mind is the fruit. The mind is the perfection of the spirit and a necessary attribute thereof, even as the rays of the sun are an essential requirement of the sun itself. SAQ hashtag 55.5-6 with some answered questions, P208, soul is a term applied to numerous realities, according to the exigencies of the following relations with respect to development in the world of existence. 1. In the mineral kingdom, soul is called latent force. 2. In the vegetable kingdom it is called virtue augmentative or the power of growth. 3. In the animal kingdom it is called sense perception or instinct. 4. In the human world, soul signifies the rational being or mind. 5. If the angelic aspect becomes more powerful, and the divine power and brightness surround man, then the second birth takes place, and eternal life is found at this point. SWV07 hashtag 19 pages 189 to 191, Abdul Baha. First, it must be recognized that philosophers and researchers in the scholarly community have defined spirit in different ways. The best, most perfect, and clearest of these is that spirit is an abstract substance separate from matter in essence but not in act. It will not be hidden from the wise that this definition, insofar as it is a definition by negation, fails to elucidate the reality of the essence of the thing described. It is a comprehensive, restrictive definition which, nonetheless, better explains the intent of the word spirit than other definitions. It can be known from this definition, for instance, that spirit is different from matter and material things in regard to its essence. Spirit cannot be described by such attributes as ingress and egress, independence and inherence, advance and retreat, movement and stillness. Eyes cannot perceive it, nor can the other senses. Yet it remains in need of matter in all acts, and inseparable from it in all conditions, for it is unimaginable that matter be stripped from it. No act can issue from spirit except through matter, and it is inconceivable that an effect could be produced by spirit save through the instrumentality of matter. Mirza Abu el-Fadl, Miracles and Metaphors, pages 17 to 18, answering a question on angels, know that spirit in general is divided into 5 sorts: the vegetable spirit, the animal spirit, the human spirit, the spirit of faith, and the divine spirit of sanctity. The vegetable spirit is the virtue augmentative, or growing or vegetative faculty, which results from the admixture of the simple elements, with the cooperation of water, air, and heat. The animal spirit is the virtue perceptive resulting from the admixture and absorption of the vital elements generated in the heart, which apprehends sense impressions. The human spirit consists of the rational, or logical, reasoning faculty, which apprehends general ideas and things intelligible and perceptible. Now these spirits are not reckoned as spirit in the terminology of the scriptures and the usage of the people of the truth, inasmuch as the laws governing them are as the laws which govern all phenomenal being, i.e., all existences belonging to the phenomenal or material universe, called the world of generation and corruption, in respect to generation, corruption, production, change, and reversion. Tablets of Abdul-Baha Abbas, p. 115, MKT 1:128. One questioned him about spirit and matter. The master replied, "This question may be answered in 2 ways, philosophically as well as spiritually. Philosophically, the answer is easy because in philosophy the spirit is energy and all matter is endowed with energy, and this power is inseparable from matter, as in electricity. In other words, matter is a vehicle for spirit, but the transformation of matter does not involve the extinction of that power because transformation and transference are in the properties of matter. Immaterial beings or realities, however, are protected and preserved and their essential power remains unaltered. The manifestation or appearance of the spirit varies due to changes in matter and bodies. This, however, does not mean that spirit itself is subject to extinction." Mahmud's Diary, October 17, 1912, page 335, alternative translation. One of those present asked about the relationship between spirit and matter. Abdul-Baha replied, "This question has 2 answers, one is philosophical and the other is divine. The philosophical answer is easy because in philosophy spirit is defined as a force belonging to every material thing which cannot be dissociated from it. For example, the power of electricity, or to use another expression, the spirit of instruments, is material, but through the transformation of matter the destruction of that force is not required, since transformation and transferal are among the concomitants of material things. As for immaterial realities and spirits, they are inviolable and impregnable, for these fundamental powers are eternal, and it is through the transformation of bodies and corporeal forms that the manifestation of spirit is diversified. It is not possible for spirit itself to become annihilated. In the mineral kingdom, soul is called latent force, silently working for the disintegration of the substance of the mineral. SWV07 #19 page 190, Abdul-Baha, human reality is the same reality which is given different names, according to the different conditions wherein it becomes manifest. Because of its attachment to matter and the phenomenal world, when it governs the physical functions of the body it is called the human soul. When it manifests itself as the thinker, it is called the mind. And when it soars into the atmosphere of God, and travels in the spiritual world, it becomes designated as spirit. SWV07 #19 page 190, Abdul-Baha, according to some ancient philosophers, the words soul, mind, and spirit imply the underlying principles of life. expressing the various phases of one absolute reality. There were different names for the operations of one essence. For instance, we say a man sees, hears, and speaks. Seeing, hearing, and speaking are the different performances of the same power which animates man. Different schools of thought have given different names to the various operations of the one essence. For instance, when some speak of the emotions of consciousness, they call it soul, and when they express the discovering power of man, they call it mind, and when they refer to the animating essence of the world of creation, they call it spirit. SWV04 #02 page 037, Abdul Baha, January 30, 1913. The soul is many, even the soul which is one, even if it is not composed from parts. For there are very many powers in it, reasoning, desiring, apprehending, which are held together by the one as by a bond. Plotinus, ENN. 6.9.1 Now regarding the question whether the faculties of the mind, Akal, and the human soul, Ruh Insani, are one and the same. These faculties are but the inherent properties of the soul, Ruh, such as the power of imagination, of thought, of understanding, powers that are the essential requisites of the reality of man, even as the solar ray is the inherent property of the sun. The temple of man is like unto a mirror, his soul is as the sun, and his mental faculties even as the rays that emanate from that source of light. Tablet to Dr. Farrell, p. 24, Spirit, Ruh, Mind, Akal, Soul, Nafs, and the powers of sight and hearing are but one single reality which hath manifold expressions owing to the diversity of its instruments. For example, if it directeth its attention to the means of hearing, then hearing and its attributes become manifest. Summons of the Lord of Hosts, Section 2, Paragraph 35. The reality of the soul is sanctified and purified above matter and material things, but like unto the world of vision, it manifests itself in these material forms and visages. Pilgrim Notes of Helen Goodall and Ella Cooper, Daily Lessons Received at Akka, page 79. The human subtle reality, Al-Latifat al-Insaniya, also called the soul, Nafs, knows in a variety of modes. When it knows through reflection, the mode of knowing is called reason, Akal. When it knows directly from God, the mode of knowing is called the heart, Kalb, which is contrasted with reason. There are not two different entities known as reason and heart, though there is a real difference between the modalities of knowing. Chittick, in the Sufi Path of Knowledge, page 159, consider the rational faculty, Nafs-i-Natiki, with which God hath endowed the essence of man. Examine thine own self, and behold how thy motion and stillness, thy will and purpose, and whatever else is related to, or transcendeth, thy physical senses or spiritual perceptions, all proceed from, and owe their existence to, this same faculty. Gleanings, number 83 p. 164. Know also that the heart of the human being has an eye whose qualities of perfection are precisely this, lack of imperfections. It is this eye that is sometimes called the rational faculty, Akal, sometimes the spirit, Ruh, and sometimes the human soul, Nafs. However, put aside these expressions, because when they become many, they make the person of weak insight imagine many meanings. Al-Ghazali, The Niche of Lights, page 5, thus doth the body obey the spirit and the outer form reflect the inner reality. AB 01601 Like a bird in the cage of this body he was captive and confined. This cage was broken and that bird took flight. AB 02970 Here we are subject to the conditions of matter. After this will succeed life on the mental plane, a life freed from this material body. ABU 2537 Therefore, while physical characteristics will perish, divine qualities will endure. The soul is a divine emanation while the body is an earthly composition. AB 11515 Soul is the material or outer self, the mind. Mind is the action of the soul's powers. The body is the physical covering or medium in which mind acts and functions. ABU 3225 The exaltation of this physical world is an imaginary conception and mere appearance, a matter of convention. In reality there exists no high or low, no descent or ascent. AB 10075 The body of man is the result of the composition of the elements, and these elements are constantly at war with each other. But the spirit of man is from the world of God. ABU 2931 Q. What is the connection of the spirit with the body? A. It has the same connection as the sun has with the mirror. Death is the name for the dissolution of this connection. ABU 3571. The physical body of man is like that of the animal, the only difference being on the level of consciousness. It follows therefore that only consciousness or mind is left after death. ABU 2186. Were the souls created as individuals before they entered the physical bodies of this world? Abdul-Baha, they existed before coming to this world, but not as we know personality upon this planet. ABU 3556. Mutilation of the body brings no harm to the soul. This is one of the proofs of the immortality of the soul, for death consists of the change and dispersion of the members and elements of the body. ABU 2979. Nevertheless, its connection to the body is apparent, and resembleth the connection of the sun to a mirror. Should the bond of association become severed, the body will become deprived and the mirror obscured. AB 03491. But if there is a harmony in man, a quiet concord, in brief, a unity between voluntary and involuntary processes, between conscious and unconscious will, then there will result an agreement of human and divine will. ABU 0453. The spirit is absolutely placeless and immaterial, but it has a connection with the body. Even as the sun has a connection with this mirror, the sun occupies no place within the mirror, but it has a connection with it. AB 00336, SAQ number 67. It is not the body which feels pain or trouble, but the soul. If we have a pain in our arm, the defect is in the body, yet it is the soul which feels the pain and is troubled, not the body, though the body is the cause of that trouble. ABU 3340. Bodily matters are not important. The physical suffering of Christ passed away, but his spirit was everlasting. These bodily sufferings come and pass away, but the spirit is eternal. The body is not important. The spirit is important. ABU 1893. The body weakens, but the soul is not affected. The body becomes incapacitated or paralyzed, but the soul suffers no change. No matter how many of man's limbs become amputated, the condition of the soul is unvarying and undergoes no change whatsoever. ABU 0184. Spirit shines through the body as the sun is reflected in the mirror. The spirit is like the sun, it has a connection with the body like that of the sun to the mirror. The mirror is lighted by the sun, and when the connection is broken, the mirror becomes dark. ABU 2279. The body of man becomes lean or fat. It is afflicted with disease, suffers mutilation, perhaps the eyes become blind, the ears deaf, but none of these imperfections and failings afflict or affect the spirit. The spirit of man remains in the same condition, unchanged. ABU 0241. No matter if the limbs of your body are feeble, praised be God, your spirit is robust, for it is even as the Christ hath said, the flesh is weak, and despondeth, but the spirit rejoiceth greatly. Know then that from this very spirit, thy body too will take on strength. AB 04405. We cannot accomplish really great things through physical force alone. The spirit must fortify our bodily strength. The spirit must assist the body under certain conditions which surround us, because the body of itself cannot endure the extreme strain of such hardships. ABU 0825. Our body is like the cage, and the spirit is like the bird. We see that without the cage this bird flies in the world of sleep. Therefore, if the cage becomes broken, the bird will continue to exist, its feelings will be even more powerful, its perceptions greater, and its happiness increased. AB 03579. And she didn't understand you the other day, my lord. He thinks that you teach asceticism, that the spirit and the flesh are two separate things. That is not what I said, the master replied. I said that the spiritual man and the materialist were two different beings. The spirit is in the flesh. ABU 3454. And she didn't understand you the other day, my lord. He thinks that you teach asceticism, that the spirit and the flesh are two separate things. That is not what I said, the master replied. I said that the spiritual man and the materialist were two different beings. The spirit is in the flesh. ABU 3454. He was imprisoned in this material cage. He was like unto a bird. He was in the troubles of this life, enduring its vicissitudes. He broke this cage and flew away. From this terrestrial, he ascended to the heavenly rose garden. From this darkened world he ascended to the world of illumination. ABU 0758 When weakness occurs in the body due to austerities and eating and drinking less, the manifestations of passion and anger decrease. But this quieting of anger and reduction in passion is accidental, not essential, since whenever one returns to eating and drinking, one returns to the original state. ABU 1983 In connection with the impossibility of descent in the planes of existence, the point of the effect of old age in the form of second childhood was raised. Abdul-Baha said that was not really a deterioration of the essential part of the man, the mind or spirit, but a weakening of the functional organs. ABU 3189 The body of man may become weak, it may become ill or incapacitated, or it may become healthy, but the soul remains unchanging in its own state. If the body becomes weak, the soul is not weakened. If the body becomes corpulent, the soul is not enlarged. If the body becomes indisposed, the soul does not suffer. ABU 0205 The soul is a link between the body and the spirit. It receives bounties and virtues from the spirit and gives them to the body just as the outward senses carry to the inward senses what they receive from the outer world in order that it may remain deposited in the memory and may be made serviceable by man through his power. ABU 3157 When we speak of the soul, we mean the motive power of this physical body which lives under its entire control in accordance with its dictates. If the soul identifies itself with the material world, it remains dark, for in the natural world there is corruption, aggression, struggles for existence, greed, darkness, transgression, and vice. ABU 0586 The human spirit is not within the body, because it is exalted above all egress and ingress, above all circling and turning which only appertains to the essence, nature, of matter. The human spirit, or the soul, is a ray, a reflex out of God, and the relationship of the spirit and body is like that of the sun and the mirror. The spirit illumines the body. ABU 0017 These changing conditions of the bodily composition are definite and continual. At one time it is normal, at another time abnormal. Now it is weak, now strong. It suffers injury, a hand may be amputated, a limb broken, an eye destroyed, an ear deafened, or some defect appear in a certain organ, but these changes do not affect the human spirit, the soul of man. ABU 0138 The spirit results from the union of body and soul. This spirit becomes immortal, always remaining with the soul and forming for it, after death, a sort of ethereal body. The human spirit is superior to the body and struggles with it for control of the soul. When it succeeds, the soul becomes heavenly. When the body obtains the control, the soul becomes degraded. ABU 2909 We see that cold, heat, suffering, etc. only concern the body, they do not touch the spirit. How often do we see a man, poor, sick, miserably clad, and with no means of support, yet spiritually strong? Whatever his body has to suffer, his spirit is free and well. Again, how often do we see a rich man, physically strong and healthy, but with a soul sick unto death? ABU 0626 The ears can hear the voice in a limited distance, the vision of the eyes similarly is circumscribed, but the spirit sees the east and the west. While in the west it organizes important affairs in the east, while on earth it discovers heavenly satellites, it unfolds the mysteries of phenomena. It goes under the earth and brings into the light of day the geologic secrets. ABU 1447 In order to seize the actions of the rational soul, we need the mediation of the body, but the soul can act directly without this intermediary. Thus, when we sleep, the soul sees without the help of the eyes. The auditory nerves are inactive, but the soul hears. Our members are in repose, but the soul is in movement. Our body is in the room, our soul is traveling through all horizons. ABU 1201 Death consisteth of the severing of that connection. That connection resembleth the relationship between a mirror and the sun. The sun does not enter into or depart from the mirror, and does not incarnate itself therein, but hath a connection to the mirror and is reflected within it. When that connection becometh severed, the mirror is deprived of its brilliance, loveliness, and charm. AB 00457 The body is made joyous, and then that joyousness is transmitted to the soul. The body will receive a share of every effect which is found in the spirit. For instance, if the spirit be rejoiced, then the effect will be over the body, and that means dancing. If the spirit be affected, with sadness the eyes begin to weep. Therefore, it is self-evident that the body receives the impressions of the spirit. ABU 2123. Just as the spirit of man is the cause of the life of his body, so is the whole world even as a body and man as its spirit. If man did not exist, if the perfections of the spirit were not manifested and the light of the mind was not shining in this world, it would be like a body without a spirit. Beyond this, this world is even as a tree and man as the fruit. Without the fruit the tree would be of no use. AB 00919, SAQ number 52. In the physical powers and senses, however, man and the animal are partners. In fact, the animal is often superior to man in sense perception. For instance, the vision of some animals is exceedingly keen and the hearing of others most acute. Consider the instinct of a dog, how much greater than that of man. But, although the animal shares with man all the physical virtues and senses, a spiritual power has been bestowed upon man of which the animal is devoid. ABU 0096. The body is the cage. The spirit is the nightingale. Once the doors of the cage are opened, once the fetters of that prison house are broken, the nightingale will soar toward the rose garden of eternity, and on the branches of the tree of life it shall perch, singing sweetly the songs of freedom and peace. Once the nightingale is out of the cage, it will not even look at it. What does the free bird want to do with a shuttered cage, even if it is made of gold? ABU 1776. Among all parts of the human body, both spiritual and physical connections are clear and manifest. For instance, between the mind and human organs there exists a spiritual connection. But between members such as the eye, ear, hand, and foot, there exists an evident connection. In brief, interaction exists, cooperation and mutual assistance are manifest, yet all this interaction is connected to the spiritual force of the human soul, which is the axis and mover of this interaction. ABU 1362. When man dies, his relation with the body ceases. The sun is reflected in the mirror reflects the light and brilliancy of the sun, but the sun does not reside in the mirror. It does not enter nor come out of the mirror, nevertheless one sees it in the mirror, so the soul reflects itself in the body. If the mirror be broken, the sun does not die. The body is the temporary mirror. The spiritual soul suffers no change, no more than the sun does, remaining eternally in its own station. ABU 0541. Since the pure essence, whose identity is unknown, possesses the virtues of the worlds of matter and of the kingdom, it has two aspects: first, the material and physical; second, the mental and spiritual, which are attributes not found as qualities of matter. It is the same reality which is given different names, according to the different conditions wherein it becomes manifest. Because of its attachment to matter and the phenomenal world, when it governs the physical functions of the body, it is called the human soul. ABU 0185. The spirit is endowed with two powers of perception and influence, one through the agency of corporeal instruments and organs. Thus it sees through the eye, hears through the ear, and speaks through the tongue. These operations of the human spirit and manifestations of human reality are effected through bodily instruments. Hence it is the spirit that sees, albeit through the instrumentality of the eye; it is the spirit that hears, though by means of the ear; it is the spirit that speaks, yet through the agency of the tongue. AB 00228, SAQ number 61. Beyond this, the members, constituent parts and composition that are found within man attract and act as a magnet for the spirit. The spirit is bound to appear in it. Thus, when a mirror is polished, it is bound to attract the rays of the sun, to be illumined, and to reflect splendid images. That is, when these physical elements are gathered and combined together, according to the natural order and with the utmost perfection, they become a magnet for the spirit, and the spirit will manifest itself therein with all its perfections. AB 00919, SAQ number 52. This physical frame undergoes change and transformation, but for the spirit there is no transformation. The body falls ill, but no defect occurs in the spirit. The body's members become impaired, but the spirit remains in its perfect state. When the defect and decay of any bodily member causes no harm to the spirit, then the defect and decay of all members likewise causes no harm to the spirit. The body is like a garment. If the garment is torn, its wearer need not perish. It is like a rider; if the mount perishes, the rider does not perish. ABU 0551. Furthermore, during a conversation you say, I said so and so, I went to that place. But who is it that is saying these things? It is the second reality with which one deliberates as to whether a certain action is beneficial or harmful, and whether it should be performed or not. What consequences will it have? It is the soul with which you are conversing. If it says, do this action, you do it, or vice versa. It is evident that this second reality is the writer, while the bodily reality is the mount. The former is the lamp, while the latter is the globe. ABU 0078. We know that the body or form has nothing to do with the spirit or spiritual conditions. When the spirit is disconnected from or leaves the body, that is no reason for thinking it can be reabsorbed or joined with the whole of spirit, as the drops of water are absorbed or lost in the sea. The earth is one unit, yet how many beings and separate parts it contains? The body of man is one unit, yet it has an infinite number of separate and individual parts that compose it, such as eyes, fingers, etc. So, in like manner, spirit is one, but consisting of many differentiated parts. ABU 2772. The truth, however, is that the rational soul is the substance through which the body subsists. If the accident the body is destroyed, the substance the spirit remains. Secondly, the rational soul, or the human spirit, does not subsist through this body by inherence, that is to say, it does not enter it, for inherence and entrance are characteristics of bodies, and the rational soul is sanctified above this. It never entered this body to begin with, that it should require, upon leaving it, some other abode. No, the connection of the spirit with the body is even as the connection of this lamp with a mirror. AB 01631, SAQ number 66, though the body of man is visible, his soul is hidden and is the ruler of the body. The soul has two ways of acting. The first is through the agency of organs and instruments, that is to say, with the eyes it sees, with the ears it hears, and with the tongue it speaks. When these instruments are in action, it is the soul which motivates them. Although these faculties, such as sight and hearing, appear to be from the body, they really proceed from the soul. The second way of acting is without the use of instruments. In the world of the dream, the soul sees without eyes, it hears without ears, speaks without a tongue, and travels without movement. ABU 0114. As to the body, it is but an instrument for the spirit, for it is the spirit that moveth, acteth, acquireth, committeth both good and evil. Sin and righteousness, cruelty and kindliness spring from the soul and spirit, not from the helpless body. Thus, just as torment and punishment, joy and sorrow, grief and gladness are felt by the spirit, so too are reward and recompense, retribution and requital, which are the consequences of one's deeds visited upon the spirit and not the body. No sword is called to account for slaying the innocent, and no arrow is reproached for wounding the helpless, for these are but instruments, not agents. They are governed, not governors. They are subdued, not subduing. AB 00068. Observe that during sleep, the human body and physical powers of hearing, sight, smell, taste and touch are inactive, meaning all physical faculties are impaired. Despite this, the human reality has spiritual life, and spiritual powers have utmost influence in making wonderful discoveries in East and West, perhaps uncovering matters that will appear in the physical world after a long time. Thus it becomes clear that the human reality's permanence and influence are not conditional on the physical frame. Rather, this physical frame is an instrument upon which the human spirit casts its rays, like the sun shining upon a mirror, making it bright, and when the sun's connection to the mirror is cut off, the mirror becomes dark. AB 00075. Thus it is proven and established that the spirit is mighty and the body in relation to the spirit is insignificant. The body is like crystal and the spirit like light. Though the crystal may be utterly pure, the manifestation and radiance of the crystal depends on the purity of the light. Light needs not the crystal but shines forth, while the crystal needs the light to become illumined. Likewise, the spirit needs not the body, but the body needs the spirit. The spirit is not alive through the body is alive through the spirit. Observe that however much the body may diminish, the spirit remains in its might and power. If a person's hand is severed, the spirit maintains its power and dominion. If the eye becomes blind, the spirit retains its vision. But if the spirit's effusions are cut off from the body instantly perishes. ABU 0088, for example, the wick in a lamp may burn out or become low, but the oil is still there and the light in that sense is not discontinued, or the chimney may become blackened with smoke, but the light shines within as brightly, though it be not as plainly discernible. ABU 3189. This is one of the proofs of the immortality of the soul, for death consists of the change and dispersion of the members and elements of the body. As a bodily change does not bring about change in the soul, it is evident that the soul is unchanging and imperishable. ABU 2979. To consider that after the death of the body the spirit perishes, is like imagining that a bird in a cage will be destroyed if the cage is broken, though the bird has nothing to fear from the destruction of the cage. Our body is like the cage, and the spirit is like the bird. AB 03579. The purely material man cannot comprehend the spiritual idea of life, and so he thinks that his lack of knowledge is proof of non-existence. Matter cannot present various sides at the same time. Two geometric forms cannot be in the same object. A spherical object cannot be in a plane, a triangle cannot be a square. ABU 1868. Did God's holy ones find such comfort and ease in this mortal realm that they would continuously seek to return and repeat this life? Is not one instance of these sorrows, afflictions, calamities, blows, and difficulties sufficient that they should wish for repeated existence in this world? This cup was not so sweet as to desire its repeated draughts. AB 00282. Having established the existence of the human spirit, we must now establish its immortality. In the heavenly books mention is made of the immortality of the spirit, which is the very foundation of the divine religions. For rewards and punishments are said to be of two kinds, one being existential rewards and punishments and the other, ultimate rewards and punishments. AB 00268, SAQ number 60, the spirit and mind of man traverses all countries and regions and even the limitless expanse of the heavens. It encompasses all existence and makes discoveries in the spheres above and in the infinite reaches of the universe. This is because the spirit has no place, it is a placeless reality, and for the spirit earth and heaven are the same, since it makes discoveries in both. AB 00336, SAQ number 67, the spirit of man, however, can manifest itself in all forms at the same time. All these can be conceived at the same moment in the human spirit, and not one of them needs to be destroyed or broken in order that the spirit of man may be transferred to another. There is no annihilation, no destruction, therefore, the human spirit is immortal because it is not transferred from one body into another body. ABU 0241. Life is the expression of composition, and death, the expression of decomposition. As the spirit of man is not composed of material elements, it is not subject to decomposition and, therefore, has no death. It is self-evident that the human spirit is simple, single, and not composed in order that it may come to immortality, and it is a philosophical axiom that the individual or indivisible atom is indestructible. ABU 0241. Consider man while in the state of sleep. It is evident that all his parts and members are at a standstill, are functionless. His eye does not see, his ear does not hear, his feet and hands are motionless, but, nevertheless, he does see in the world of dreams, he does hear, he speaks, he walks, he may even fly in an airplane. Therefore, it becomes evident that though the body be dead, yet the spirit is alive and permanent. ABU 0096. First, we must establish that extinction does not pertain to existence, for extinction consists of the dispersion of component parts. Know, therefore, that death does not pertain to existence. At most, there is transition from one state to another, for the soul of man is not composed, it is not a formation of elements subject to dissolution. If it was composed, we would have to consider it mortal. But since it is not composed, it is therefore incapable of being annihilated. ABU 0184. When you wish to reflect upon or consider a matter, you consult something within you. You say, shall I do it, or shall I not do it? Is it better to make this journey or abandon it? Whom do you consult? Who is within you deciding this question? Surely there is a distinct power, an intelligent ego. Were it not distinct from your ego, you would not be consulting it. It is greater than the faculty of thought. It is your spirit which teaches you, which advises and decides upon matters. ABU 0096. A rational proof for this is that man has two realities, a bodily reality and a spiritual reality. The bodily reality is fleeting, but the spiritual reality is immortal. This is because extinction consists of transition from one form to another. In the world of corporeal forms, no being can possess two forms at the same time. The soul of man, however, possesses all forms at the same time. Therefore, the soul is eternal, not subject to transition, and always possesses all forms. ABU 0078. The first proof, it is evident that all material things are composed of the elements, and from every composition one being has come into existence. The second proof, every being in the universe requires a unique form to be realized. The third proof, every being has a beginning to its existence, but later its traces are obliterated. The fourth proof, what is death? Death is the cessation of the corporeal faculties of man. The fifth proof, the body of man may become weak, it may become ill or incapacitated. The sixth proof, when you contemplate or consider any matter, you often consult with yourself about it. ABU 0205. But now we come to the proofs. Those who do not believe in immortality have some proofs. For example, one is this. They divide existence into two kinds, imaginary existence and that of the senses. They say that since the immortal kingdom is not of the senses, there can be no such kingdom. This is their proof. By this proof they deny. But Jesus and Baha'u'llah answer the people who do not believe thus. Every rational man can see that the world has come out of non-existence into existence. Life progresses from the mineral kingdom to the vegetable kingdom, from the vegetable to the animal, and from thence to the human kingdom. Were there no spiritual kingdom, life would be useless. ABU 0495. Although the body is transferred from one state to another, the soul is not changed or altered thereby. The body of man, for instance, is young and becomes old. The soul, however, remains in the same state. In the dream state, the body of man is inactive and its faculties are idle. The eyes do not see, the ears do not hear, and the body does not move. Notwithstanding this, the soul sees, hears, moves, and discovers answers to various questions. The body is situated here, while the soul is present in the east or the west. An effect without a cause is impossible. Every created thing possesses one form, either it is triangular, or square, or shaped like a pentagon, and so forth. When man considers the world of creation, he will see that there are two kinds of things, those that are perceptible to the senses and those that are perceptible to the intellect. ABU 0184. If thou wouldst reflect upon the deeds of the prophets, thou wouldst bear witness with absolute certitude that there are worlds besides this world. The philosophers of the earth, as revealed in the tablet of wisdom by the supreme pen, have mostly acknowledged and accepted what was revealed in the divine books. However, the materialists who believe in nature have written concerning the prophets that they were wise men who, for the education of the people, made mention of heaven and hell, reward and punishment. Now consider, all people in every age have regarded the prophets as superior to all others. Some have called these pure essences wise men, while others have recognized them as being from God. Now, if such souls had considered divine worlds to be limited to this earthly life, they would never have surrendered themselves to their enemies nor endured unprecedented trials and tribulations. BH 00433, Law Abdul Wahab, an evidence of the immortality of the human spirit is the fact that it is not affected by changes in the body. The body is subject to various conditions. At one time it may be healthy, at another time it may be susceptible to some pathology. At one time it may be weak or ill, at another time it may be well and strong, or a member may become lost. However, the reality within the body, the human spirit or mind, is the same. If the body should become lean, the spirit would not become lean. If the body should become corpulent, the spirit would not become corpulent. If the body should be dismembered, the spirit would not be affected. In brief, the spirit is independent of the body, and the disintegrations that take place in the body do not affect the soul, for the human reality or spirit is ever the same. Among other evidences of the immortality of the spirit is the fact that there can be no effect without a cause. It is impossible for a non-existent cause to produce existent effects. ABU 0045. A rational proof for the immortality of the spirit is this, that no effect can be produced by a non-existent thing, that is, it is impossible that any effect should appear from absolute nothingness. For the effect of a thing is secondary to its existence, and that which is secondary is conditioned upon the existence of that which is primary. So from a non-existent sun no rays can shine, from a non-existent sea no waves can surge, from a non-existent cloud no rain can fall, from a non-existent tree no fruit can appear, from a non-existent man nothing can be manifested or produced. Therefore, so long as the effects of existence are visible, they prove that the author of that effect exists. Consider how to this day the sovereignty of Christ has endured. How can a sovereignty of such greatness be manifested by a non-existent sovereign? How can such waves surge from a non-existent sea? How can such heavenly breezes waft from a non-existent garden? Consider that as soon as the constituent parts of anything, be it mineral, plant, or animal, are disintegrated and its elemental composition is dissolved, all effect, influence, and trace thereof vanish. But it is not so with the human spirit and reality, which continues to manifest its signs, to exert its influence, and to sustain its effects even after the dissociation and decomposition of the various parts and members of the body. AB 00268, SAQ number 60, in wakefulness the eye of man sees at most as far as 1 hour's distance, for the influence of the spirit through the intermediary of the body extends only so far, but with the mind's eye it sees America, understands that land, is apprised of its condition, and arranges affairs accordingly. Now, if the spirit were identical with the body, its power of vision would extend no further. It is therefore evident that the spirit is different from the body, that the bird is different from the cage, and that the power and influence of the spirit is more pronounced without the intermediary of the body. Now, if the instrument becomes idle, its wielder continues to exist. For example, if the pen is abandoned or broken, the writer remains alive and well. If a house is destroyed, its owner lives on. This is one of the rational arguments proving the immortality of the soul. Another proof is this: man's body may become weak or robust, sick or healthy, tired or rested, it may suffer the loss of a hand or leg, it may decline in material powers, it may become blind, deaf, dumb, or paralyzed. In short, it may become gravely impaired. And yet despite this the spirit maintains its original condition and spiritual perceptions, suffering no impairment or disruption. But when the body is afflicted with a major illness or calamity, it is deprived of the grace of the spirit, like a mirror that is broken or covered with dust and that can no longer reflect the light of the sun or manifest its bounty. AB 00228, SAQ number 61. All things of this world fall into two groups: either they belong to the things that can be measured, weighed, proven, or else to the ones that cannot be measured, weighed, proven. You want an example, my daughter? Look, here in London I can always prove to you, count to you, that twice 2 is 4. But how can I prove to you that you are or have an immaterial soul? Can I measure, weigh, touch, prove your soul? The materialist or atheist, however, accepts only the first category of things as real or factual, as existing, and nothing else. How illogically, inconsequentially, how one-sidedly and blindly he judges. As soon as the atheist comes to you, as the great tempter and unifier, and asks, "Prove, show to me your soul," then say to him boldly, "Prove to me that I have no soul, show me what it is that thinks in me. For the brain is but the implement. Where is the life of the implement? Where does the implement come from? Who creates it?" He will tell you, as an honest person, as an upright seeker, I have to reply, nobody knows this, nobody can know this. But you, the idealist, you should not assert either, as an honest human being, an upright seeker, the self is or has an immaterial soul, because you cannot prove or show it either. And therefore both the atheist and the idealist must say, we know nothing of the soul, we know no soul. This is the language of the materialists and atheists. But then, my daughter, you should not fall silent in embarrassment, but you should tell him, O atheist, there is no America, I have not seen America, I have not even glanced at America, I cannot believe the travelers in books, I want, here from London, and London itself, to see, touch, count, measure, weigh America, Other proofs I will not accept as valid. How will the atheist reply to you? He will say, come with me to America. Here in London I cannot show you America concretely, visibly, but there, on the spot, you will have to let yourself be convinced, and you will be convinced of the land of America, and you will reply, good, O atheist, but what is fair to one is fair to the other. My thinking self is my soul, and the home of my soul is there with the origin and source of all souls, with God. Let us die, and then I will convince you of the soul, of the higher home, of God. The world beyond is the home of my soul, it is my America, in which you do not believe and of which you refuse to know, because I cannot show it to you here in this world. Let us travel across the sea of death to the world beyond, and I will show it to you, just as you want to show me, after a journey across the ocean, the reality of your America beyond. You, materialist, possess this world, show it, prove, count, measure, weigh everything, but I, i.e. my soul, also possess the beyond on top of everything, and the day will come, sooner or later, the eternal or the judgment day, when I shall show, prove, and demonstrate everything to you, to your soul. Now we live in belief, in surmise, in feeling, in delicate, fragile proof by analogy, comparison, in the reflection and refulgence of the eternal, the immeasurable, the incorporeal. O atheist, I cannot reach down for you, for example, the moon from the firmament, to touch and see close to, but approach the water and at least look at its reflection, the image of the heavenly body. Much can now only be seen from afar, imagined from afar, but the day of seeing it close, of touching and possessing, will come, and then we shall speak further. ABU 0610. Animals are intense in their sensations, but humans possess penetrating vision. AB 03468. What difference will there be between him and the animals, who are born, live, eat, and die? ABU 2851. Man is like the animal in physical structure, but otherwise immeasurably separated and superior. ABU 0627. If there be no love, this is the animal's kingdom, for the distinguishing feature of man's world is love. ABU 2926. They say that man is a sign of the all-merciful and the greatest dawning place of the bounty of the Lord God. AB 04489. Man is of a station far more exalted, a sovereignty more firm, and a proof more glorious than nature, to which God has given no authority. AB 00102 is the animal's inability to perceive the existence of human intellect or perfection, sufficient grounds on which to reject them as falsehoods. ABU 3717. One's heart must be alive, one's spirit joyful, and one's understanding expansive, otherwise one is like an animal, or even more base than that. ABU 1666. A human being is distinguished from an animal in a number of ways. First of all, he is made in the image of God, in the likeness of the supernal light. AB 06380. If inability to sense constitutes proof of perfection, the cow must be the greatest philosopher, for she does not realize anything beyond the animal world. ABU 3156. Thus it becomes evident that the natural movements of all beings are compelled movements, and none moves by its own will except animals, and especially humans. AB 01029, SAQ number 01. The most important of all intentions is to spread the love of God, to establish harmony and oneness among the people. This is what distinguishes man from animals. ABU 2593. The distinction which man enjoys above and beyond the station of the animal is due to this paramount virtue. It is a bestowal of God, it is not material, it is divine. ABU 0157. A man can hate more terribly than an animal. Man can be more cruel than an animal, and all the baser qualities or passions are intensified if present in the human family. ABU 2609. What is the distinction between man and animal? Wherein lies the difference? It is in reason, knowledge, and learning. Ignorant peoples and nations are lower than animals. ABU 0949. Like the animal, man possesses the faculties of the senses, is subject to heat, cold, hunger, thirst, etc. Unlike the animal, man has a rational soul, the human intelligence. ABU 0577. The difference between animal and man is this, that the animal cannot comprehend the teachings of God. The animal does not progress. But these teachings are specialized for man. ABU 1933 and man, except he is taught by an educator, is absolutely savage, because we distinguish between man and animal by the education which man gets, but of which the animal is bereft. ABU 0272 man has been and continues to be among the greatest signs of God, and has come from the realm of non-existence into the court of existence for the knowledge and betterment of the world. BH 00920 material scientists endeavor to show the evolution of the species man from the monkey. The prophets of God have been occupied in explaining that man has descended from the divine spirit. ABU 2804 though all created things universally reflect the signs of God, it is man alone who hath been distinguished and honored with the glory of divine favors and the gift of universal bounties. AB 05415 and secondly, if the human world were to have only outward perfections and physical comfort as its result, then every flock of birds and every beehive possesses these perfections and results. ABU 2168 humans outwardly resemble animals. The difference between humans and animals is that humans possess spiritual powers while animals are deprived of them. Humans are aware of God while animals are unaware. ABU 0690 the all-loving God created man to radiate the divine light and to illumine the world by his words, action, and life. If he is without virtue he becomes no better than a mere animal, and an animal devoid of intelligence is a vile thing. ABU 0665 and they consider man to be a distinct species of this genus. In any case, man, who is the distinct species, is the manifestation of blessed be God, the best of creators, and is the mirror reflecting the sun of reality with manifest light. AB 05613 man is distinguished from all created things, nature, all things are its captive. The sun, for all its greatness, is its captive. But man, whose body is so small, God hath created within him a sacred power that can break the laws of nature. ABU 0675 but you, who are human and endowed with recognition, beseech God that in this garden you may be a laughing 100-petaled rose rather than mere herb, basil, and thyme, not a worthless weed but an intoxicated violet, not a bitter, despised chicory. AB 05777 not everyone who has the form of a human being is worthy of the most great panorama, nor will such a one necessarily be accounted a human being before God. For all who remain bereft of the robe of mystical insight are reckoned as beasts of the field by God. BH 10402 the ideal faculties of man, including the capacity for scientific acquisition, are beyond nature's ken. These are powers whereby man is differentiated and distinguished from all other forms of life. This is the bestowal of divine idealism, the crown adorning human heads. ABU 0157 therefore the happiness of man and the eternal prosperity of the people lie in the knowledge of God, the love of God, the virtue of the world of humanity, and the ideal perfections. If man obtains this virtue, he is superior to the animals, otherwise he is inferior to them. ABU 0216 some are of a material inclination, enslaved to the world of nature, they follow the example of other animals which are also enslaved by the world of nature, the only difference being that the natural characteristics of man are slightly more honorable than those of other creatures. AB 04410 from this standpoint of knowing the greatest Plato is the cow, and the donkey is an arch philosopher. In the great university of nature, where nothing beyond the pale of sensibilities is classified as knowledge, the animal is a graduate and the human materialist but an undergraduate. ABU 2865 it is only through the display of the spiritual willpower that man is distinguished above the animals. All the sciences and inventions, all the colossal undertakings and great achievements have been brought into being through the exercise of willpower in the properly directed channels. ABU 0303 like the animals they walk on the surface of the earth and would not allow their minds to be illumined by the eternal verities of the universe. What they have, though infinitesimally small, pleases and satisfies them. They seek no further and go not beyond the questions of bread and meat. ABU 0863 the guidance of God, the bounty of the kingdom, the life everlasting, the bounty of the Holy Spirit, are special bestowals to man. These are the greatest attainment of the human world. Man is specially chosen to receive good gifts of God. If he be not mindful, then the status of the animal is superior. ABU 1020 man must be distinguished from animal, and man's distinction lies in becoming the cause of the comfort and ease of others. Otherwise, if comfort and benefit are merely personal, all beasts and birds attain to this, nay rather, for man, like unto cattle, physical comfort, pleasure and bounty are impossible. AB 05772 What are the animal's propensities? To eat, drink, wander about and sleep. The thoughts, the minds of the animals are confined to these. They are captives in the bonds of these desires. Man becomes a prisoner and slave to them when his ultimate desire is no higher than his welfare in this world of the senses. ABU 0294 The life of animals is more simple than that of man. Animals have all their needs supplied for them. All the grasses of the meadows are free to them. The birds build their nests in the branching trees, and the palaces of kings are no so beautiful. If earthly needs are all, then the animals are better supplied than man. ABU 0162 This signifies that man has the power of being infinitely more degraded than the other three kingdoms and can do more harm. In the lowest of the three, ferocious animals exist, but after all they can only kill one creature at a time. But when man is bent on destruction, he can by his inventions destroy thousands at the same moment. ABU 1314 It is clearly evident that while man possesses powers in common with the animal, he is distinguished from the animal by intellectual attainment, spiritual perception, the acquisition of virtues, capacity to receive the bestowals of divinity, lordly bounty and emanations of heavenly mercy. This is the adornment of man, his honor and sublimity. ABU 0109 Man is distinguished above the animals through his reason. The perceptions of man are of two kinds, tangible, or sensible, and reasonable, whereas the animal perceptions are limited to the senses, the tangible only. As to the animal, it is endowed only with sense perception. It is lacking the reasonable perception. It cannot apprehend ideal realities. ABU 0029 For instance, the spirits of the birds cannot comprehend anything of reality, and cannot realize spiritual things. They cannot think about knowledge. The spirit of the animal can only feel and sense things, but realize nothing about the spiritual. They are simply the results of the combination of the elements, and when they die nothing remains of them. ABU 1316 But man, who is the noblest of beings possessed of spirit, moving with will and endowed with reason and intelligence, must therefore excel all created things in every perfection. And if he is deprived of this bounty, he becomes utterly reprehensible and blameworthy, and the worst kind of animal. These are like cattle, nay, rather they have gone more astray. AB 00146 When man is under the control of his material nature and his life is not influenced by the heavenly power nor directed by the moral voice, he is worse than a brute. Under such circumstances the animal's actions are excusable because he is not endowed with the intelligent faculty, but man is responsible on account of his superior creation and reasonable powers. ABU 0999 All the animals do not perceive another world outside the world of matter and nature. In this case, each of them is a philosopher of nature, as they do not sense anything outside of nature. Is this proof of the intelligence of the animal, of its awareness and perception, or is it evidence of the insufficiency of its senses and perception and its lack of apprehension? ABU 0255 Man has a sacred power beyond the confines of the senses. The power of the rational mind is the power of the soul over the senses. This cycle is radiating love, and the bestowals of God are descending like unto rain. Man's glory lies in the difference between him and the animals. In Persia, a small child who has been taught to think universally can talk with the learned. ABU 0608 Animals have sensations. They have the five physical senses and perceive those things which affect the senses. Man also, like animals, having the five senses, perceives the things which affect them, but, further, he possesses a spiritual power, and its nature original and essential, which encompasses the reality of all things and by which he perceives things which do not affect the senses. ABU 0780 He has not created material phenomena after his own image and likeness, but he has created man after that image and with potential power to attain that likeness. He has distinguished man above all other created things. All created things except man are captives of nature and the sense world, but in man there has been created an ideal power by which he may perceive intellectual or spiritual realities. ABU 0100 Gracious God, The animal, notwithstanding that it is a captive of nature and nature completely dominateth it, attacheth no importance to color. For instance, thou dost behold that the black, white, yellow, blue, and other colored pigeons are in utmost harmony with one another. They never give importance to color. Likewise sheep and the beasts, despite differences in color, are in utmost love and unity. AB 02243 Man is intelligent, instinctively and consciously intelligent, nature is not. Man is fortified with memory, nature does not possess it. Man is the discoverer of the mysteries of nature, nature is not conscious of those mysteries herself. It is evident, therefore, that man is dual in aspect. As an animal he is subject to nature, but in his spiritual or conscious being he transcends the world of material existence. ABU 0122 Man must always strive to have his spirit overcome his body. When his spirit overcomes his body, the second birth takes place and he becomes freed from imperfections. He becomes filled with virtues. He becomes nearer the divine and follows the divine teachings. He becomes like a lighted candle. This is the reality of the subject. But when he is immersed in the world of nature he is like an animal, a fierce animal. ABU 1725 Whilst in reality this condition of life belongs to the animal kingdom, the animals in this world of materialism, and does not know anything other than matter, nature. Therefore, if the glorification and worship of nature, as believed by some of our contemporaneous thinkers, is a great virtue, then the animal is the most virtuous. The cow is entirely out of touch with the realm of God and is not cognizant of the spiritual life. ABU 0116 For man alone of all the animals is not governed by the conditions in which he finds himself. He has no wings, but he does not submit himself to this fact. He makes wings and conquers the air. He has no fins, but he conquers the sea. He conquers the night by creating for himself light, the cold by making heat, his limited senses by supplementing and extending them. He assails heaven itself that he may rise to God, his Father and Creator. ABU 1355 Man is distinguished from all other creations. Man, who is in part animal, possesses all the virtues of the mineral, because he has a body, he possesses the added faculty of the vegetable, growth, he has the virtue of the animal kingdom, sensation, and, above all, he possesses reflective and mental power, by which he understands the reality of things. Perceiving and reflecting upon visible things, he realizes the reality of unknown things. ABU 0667 Therefore man must strive to acquire the virtues and qualities of the kingdom in order to attain perfection. Otherwise he remains like the animal. In fact, the animal is nobler, because not being endowed with reason and capacity its lack of spiritual development is excusable. But since man has been given the divine bestowal of the mind he must therefore ever acquire virtues, for without the divine attributes he may become lower than the animal. ABU 0751 Perceiving and reflecting upon visible things, he realizes the reality of unknown things. When a man gazes at the earth he sees it as if it were level, but by his perception he finds that it is a globe. This power of perception can never be found in the animal kingdom, but man by this power can prove that the sun is a center and that the globe and other bodies revolve around it. This power of judgment, possessed only by man, proves his excellence. ABU 0667 Man, in this station, is endowed with the power of speech, but man can comprehend most important things, while animals cannot. It is impossible for an animal to know whether the earth is a sphere or a plane, while man can know. It is impossible for an animal to know that the sun is the center around which the earth rotates, because an animal can only know things which can be seen or felt, but man can also understand what he senses by the intellect. ABU 0960 We must not look at the worldly condition, but at the truth and at the divine truth, because if we look only at the outward form of man, how can we distinguish him from the animal? Because we find them eating and doing the same things, but when we give attention to the spirit in man, we find it is far different from the animal. When you look at water, salt and sweet, you cannot tell the difference, but when you taste the water, you can distinguish. ABU 1656 The station of man is great, very great. God has created man after his own image and likeness. He has endowed him with a mighty power which is capable of discovering the mysteries of phenomena. Through its use, man is able to arrive at ideal conclusions instead of being restricted to the mere plane of sense impressions. As he possesses sense endowment in common with the animals, it is evident that he is distinguished above them by his conscious power of penetrating abstract realities. ABU 0572. The animal is bereft of ideality, that is to say, it is a captive of the world of nature and not in touch with that which lies within and beyond nature. It is without spiritual susceptibilities, deprived of the attractions of consciousness, unconscious of the world of God, and incapable of deviating from the law of nature. It is different with man. Man is possessed of the emanations of consciousness, he has perception, ideality, and is capable of discovering the mysteries of the universe. ABU 0096. As to the question of humanity's progress to higher degrees, know that souls are like stones and fruits. Precious gems cannot be compared to ordinary stones, and likewise, good fruits cannot be compared to other fruits. The prophets are like gems that are distinguished in their very essence, while other people are like ordinary stones. Therefore, no matter how much ordinary stones may progress and ascend, they will never reach the station of precious gems, for it is beyond their capacity and potential. AB 04427. Man is superior to nature and makes nature do his bidding. Man is a sensitive being, nature is without sensation. Man has memory and reason, nature lacks them. Man is nobler than nature. There are powers within him of which nature is devoid. It may be claimed that these powers are from nature itself and that man is a part of nature. In answer to this statement, we will say that if nature is the whole and man is a part of that whole, how could it be possible for a part to possess qualities and virtues which are absent in the whole? ABU 0145. Therefore, wisdom consists of knowledge of the realities of things as they truly are, through experience and realization. Hence God has created man as the sum of all realities. For instance, the degrees of existence are either mineral, vegetable, or animal, and man is the distinguished species that combines the perfections of the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms. Furthermore, this comprehensiveness is reinforced by the power of spirit, and through this spirit man is distinguished from all other beings and is the noblest of creatures. ABU 0031. But man's ambition should soar above this, he should ever look higher than himself, ever upward and onward, until through the mercy of God he may come to the kingdom of heaven. Again, there are men whose eyes are only open to physical progress and to the evolution in the world of matter. These men prefer to study the resemblance between their own physical body and that of the ape, rather than to contemplate the glorious affiliation between their spirit and that of God. This is indeed strange, for it is only physically that man resembles the lower creation. With regard to his intellect, he is totally unlike it. ABU 0555. Nature is ignorant while man is conscious, nature is heedless, man is rational. Every corruption exists in the world of nature, while human reality is sanctified. In the world of nature there is tyranny, in the human world justice. In the world of nature there is ignorance, in the human world knowledge. In the world of nature there is vice, in the human world purity and righteousness. In the world of nature there is transgression, in the human world equilibrium. In the world of nature exist all vices, and in the human world all virtues. If vices appear in a soul, they spring from the requirements of the world of nature, not from the requirements of the human world. ABU 1170. But on the other hand, take the example of the honey bee. The bee is an independent, self-sufficient member of the bee community. In itself, it is the source of supply and demand. It gives the sweet honey and it does not require anything in turn. Similarly, the little ant is an individualist and can live and support itself without the assistance of others. From this standpoint, the bee and the ant must be then very happy and enjoy all the privileges of greatness, because they are self-satisfied. However, the glory of man is not in these things. Man becomes man through ideal virtues, through the excellence of the world of humanity, through intellectual superiority, through the knowledge of God and the illumination of his heart. If he is imbued with these qualities, he is man, otherwise he is lower than the animal. ABU 0866. Thus it became clear that the gifts of the natural world have greater manifestation in the animal world. However, although humans may not have a full share and abundant portion of these natural gifts, in the divine world they are the manifestation of endless favors, the niche of the light of reality, the bright mirror of divine beauty, the manifestation of heavenly gifts, the dawning place of divine lights, and possess a sacred power that encompasses all created things. This is why they discover the realities of things, exercise dominion over nature, bring forth nature's mysteries from the realm of the invisible to the visible, break nature's might, destroy nature's law, disrupt nature's system, sometimes soaring through the air, sometimes racing across the surface of the sea, sometimes riding beneath the sea. AB 00519. If the aim were this physical life only, then this creation would be in vain and men would not have more honor or be nobler than other creatures. The greatest of sensual pleasures, beauty of appearance and freedom are found among the animals. Birds excel all in sensual pleasures, for they build nests on the loftiest branches and breathe the purest air. All seeds and fruit are their property. Limpid streams, charming plains, beautiful fields, verdant hills, green valleys, exquisite gardens, and lovely flowers are all for their pleasure and happiness. They have no grief, regrets, aspirations, ambitions, quarrels, contentions, wars, or massacres. If the purpose of existence is sensual life and pleasures, then animal and man are equal. Happiness and pleasure are rather the possession of the bird and not those of distressed and sorrowful men. ABU 1611. Know that people in the world are of two kinds, that is, they belong to two groups. One group denies the human spirit and says that man is but a species of animal. Why? Because we see that man and animal share the same powers and senses in common. The simple and individual elements that pervade space combine in countless forms, each giving rise to a different being. Among these are sentient beings endowed with certain powers and senses. The more perfect the combination, the nobler the being. The combination of elements in man's body is more perfect than in any other being, and its elements are combined in perfect equilibrium, thus making it nobler and more perfect. Man has not, they say, any special power or spirit that other animals are bereft of. Animals too have sensory perceptions, but man's powers are simply more acute in certain respects. UB 00057, SAQ number 48. The phenomenal world is entirely subject to the rule and control of natural law. These myriad suns, satellites, and heavenly bodies throughout endless space are all captives of nature. They cannot transgress in a single point or particular the fixed laws which govern the physical universe. The sun in its immensity, the ocean in its vastness are incapable of violating these universal laws. All phenomenal beings, the plants in their kingdom, even the animals with their intelligence, are nature's subjects and captives. All live within the bounds of natural law, and nature is the ruler of all except man. Man is not the captive of nature, for although according to natural law he is a being of the earth, yet he guides ships over the ocean, flies through the air in airplanes, descends in submarines. Therefore, he has overcome natural law and made it subservient to his wishes. ABU 0405. Thou hast asked concerning the motion and stillness of all things according to the will of God. Know this of a truth, for he who is the Lord of grace abounding is the sustainer of all things. Should the aid of God be withheld from the world of being, no created thing would be able to move. It is not meant, however, that everything hath been foreordained, but rather that if the assistance of God be severed from the world, the entire creation would be bereft of the capacity to move. For instance, if the assistance of the Spirit was to be severed from the limbs and members of the human body, every limb would be impotent to move. Nevertheless, such a motion is engendered at the request and pleasure of the soul rather than the Spirit. How oft hath the Spirit longed for sanctity and desired to attain the abode of the well-beloved, but the concupiscent soul hath gained ascendancy and suffered man with an impulse that hath caused the resentment of the Spirit. It is in this regard that it hath been said, there is neither motion nor stillness except by God. From a tablet of Abdul-Baha, AVK 1.079-080, http://payment.sazedj.org/node/29, I swear by the incomparable, the one true God. No atom in the heavens and the earth moveth except by the leave of the ancient beauty and the good pleasure of his will. Well is he able to search what lieth concealed in the hearts of men, and powerful is he to subdue the world and all that is therein by a word of his mouth. But were he to manifest such tokens, every man would either willingly or unwillingly acknowledge the truth of his cause. Since such an acknowledgment is of no worth, the revelations of divine power are, at one time, made manifest, while at another, they are withheld and concealed. At the time of their manifestation, those who are present are drawn nigh unto the heaven of the seen, while at the time of their concealment the steadfast are separated from them who are the victims of their idle fancies. From a tablet of Baha'u'llah, MA 8.009, http://payment.sazedj.org/node/27, whatsoever thou dost behold in the world, though to outward seeming it be contrary to the will of the manifestations of God, yet inwardly it hath ever been and shall remain in accordance with the will of God. If a soul should meditate upon this utterance, he would observe that not a single atom moveth save by the will of God, and that no one understandeth a single letter save by that same will. Baha'u'llah, Provisional Translation, Tablet to Salman, AVK 1.093-094, The mesh of divine destiny, Kata, exceedeth the vastest of mortal conceptions, and the dart of his decree, Takdir, transcendeth the boldest of human designs. None can escape the snare he setteth, and no soul can find release except through submission to his will. The Kitab-i-Iqan, paragraph 280p 251, chance, free will, and necessity nowise incompatible, all interweavingly working together. The straight warp of necessity, not to be swerved from its ultimate course, its every alternating vibration, indeed, only tending to that, free will still free to ply her shuttle between given threads, and chance, though restrained in its play within the right lines of necessity, and sideways in its motions modified by free will, though thus prescribed to by both, chance by turns rules either, and has the last featuring blow at events. Herman Melville, Moby Dick, XLVII, and Great Treasury of Western Thought, May 7, 41, the statement neither compulsion nor deference, and neither aversion nor dominion, but the middle way, signifieth that deeds are committed by man, but aid and assistance cometh from God. Unless his bountiful favor and assistance be received, all on the earth shall pass away, but with his aid and favor, every one acteth after his own manner. And yet, to all, both to these and those, will we prolong the gifts of thy Lord, for not to any shall the gifts of thy Lord be denied. If the wind bloweth not, that is, if divine assistance be withdrawn, the ship cannot move. It can neither sail to the east nor to the west. But with the aid of the wind, the ship can be carried in whichever direction the rudder turneth. Thus the motion of the ship, either to the east or to the west, dependeth on the wind's assistance, but its course will follow the direction of the rudder, however it may be inclined. The words no deference signify that the ship cannot move by its own power, whereas no compulsion implieth that by means of its rudder it is free to move in any direction. This is the meaning of the middle way. Provisional Translation, AB 04687. Indeed, all who have endeavored to explain the problem of destiny have advocated either absolute divine determinism or human choice, and thus all the philosophers have confessed their powerlessness to explain the truth of this question. Indeed, this verily is the truth, inasmuch as the philosophers wanted to explain the divine truth, the middle path between absolute determinism and absolute freedom, by proofs of reason, which is, however, impossible. For, verily, reason, even in its utmost level of abstraction, is confined to understanding mere limited phenomena, which fail to guide humans unto the summit of the delight of their heart. Thus, he who abideth upon the throne of the kingdom of reason hath no recourse but to believe in either determinism or absolute freedom. The Bab, Provisional Translation, GOH.211, thou hadst asked about fate, Kata, predestination, Qadar, and will, Irady. Kata and Qadar consist in the necessary and indispensable relationships which exist in the realities of things. These relationships have been placed in the realities of existent beings through the power of creation, and every incident is a consequence of the necessary relationship. For example, God hath created a relation between the sun and the terrestrial globe, that the rays of the sun should shine and the soil should yield. These relationships constitute Qadar, and the manifestation thereof in the plane of existence is Kata. Irady is that active force which controlleth these relationships and these incidents. Such is the epitome of the explanation of Kata and Qadar. I have no time for a detailed explanation. Ponder over this, the reality of Kata, Qadar, and Irady shall be made manifest. Selections from the writings of Abdul-Baha, number 167.